Yeah, we're excited to get Malik. He's a guy that's been on our radar for quite some time as an explosive playmaker that can play multiple spots, can separate, has run after the catch, very good hands, very productive, and in a difficult conference. So look forward to getting here tomorrow, and then getting him in the building a couple weeks from now. And as we get him in with the rest of the players in our culture and developing him and competing for his play time. So with that, we'll open up for questions.
What made you, obviously you had a choice there, Malik over Odunze?
Yeah, we have a lot of meetings, throughout the season, and at the end of the day, we just thought Malik's toughness, separation, speed. Not that Rome doesn't have all those things. Rome's a very good player too. Just when it came down to it, what we were looking for, Malik checked a lot of those boxes. As a person, his toughness, competes, production, and again the versatility that he'll bring to the table.
Joe, there were quarterbacks on the board certainly for you. First of all, how aggressive were you trying to trade up to get a quarterback?
Yeah, I think I said last week we were going to have conversations in front of us. We actually had conversations behind us. There was an opportunity for us to move out of the pick. So we had conversations. We had different plans in place, and we're ecstatic to have Malik Nabers here. So we're really happy the way it worked out.
There's been a lot of reporting that you were pushing with the Patriots, so specifically for the third pick. Just curious, how serious did those talks get? Was there just a walkaway point where their ask was too high?
Yeah, again, we had a lot of conversations with a lot of teams. I'm not going to get into specifics, and we got a really good player at 6 that was a position that I think was a need that we needed to upgrade. And again, I'm ecstatic to have Malik here. I'm really fired up about the kid.
Did you have any text from Daniel Jones regarding this pick?
Yeah, he's fired up. I texted him Malik's number. That was one of the first things I did, and he's fired up about it.
Right.
He knew before that it was announced on ESPN and NFL Network. I let him know.
Right, what does it mean for you to have, that sort of, for lack of a better term, the number 1 type receiver?
Yeah, look, I'm excited about Malik. He's a heck of a player. He's a fun guy to evaluate. Like Joe talked about, he's got quickness, he's explosive, a good run after the catch. He's got a great mindset in terms of the competitive style he plays with. Played well in big games. Get him in the program, get him with the receivers and into the offense, and really looking forward to working with him.
Joe, do you view the quarterback position as a priority high in this draft still? You have the number 47 overall, or do you remain comfortable coming out of this draft without one if that's the case?
I'm comfortable where we are.
Do you believe you can find like a franchise quarterback at that point in the draft?
Listen, I'm ecstatic about Malik. I mean, I don't know what's going on out there right now. I know a couple quarterbacks just went. So again, we're going to look at all positions across the board. It's I've said last week that we have multiple needs across the board on the team, and we'll continue to try to fill those throughout the draft. And again, there can still be movement. We can get more picks. We can trade up. We've done that in the past. So again, we just got a electric wide receiver that's 20 years old. He actually won't be 21 until end of July. I had my guys look it up. I think he's the 4th youngest player that we had on our entire board amongst 450 players that we again in certain ranges. But a young player that is electric, and we're really fired up about acquiring.
Was there a point where you kind of like stood out and popped to you throughout the process? Maybe it wasn't even this year.
Yeah, LSU, the amount of players that they had, our staff was able to see him play live several times, seen him 2 years in a row. I happened to be at their first game of the year versus Florida State 2 years in a row. So he's been on our radar as a really good player. And again, we were at the pro day. We had him in on a 30 visit. Went to dinner with him a couple different times, and getting around the kid. He's a great kid. He's super competitive. He's driven, and I'm excited about him. He's a good player.
Prior to you guys, what does this do for Daniel? He's never really had a top receiver like this.
Well, we gotta get him in. He's obviously he was ultra productive at LSU. Made a ton of plays. I would say deep, intermediate, short. It'd be good to get him in here and get him acclimated to what we do. And I know he's excited about it. We're excited to have him.
There was obviously
Was he the top receiver on the board?
He was in the mix of multiple guys, so we had a lot of guys that we liked that would fit in the way we had them stacked. At the time when we took him, he was the top receiver on the board.
There was obviously an arrest at some point with him, with the gun, the charges eventually dropped. But I'm assuming that wasn't a problem with you, and how did you guys go about looking into that?
Yeah, we've got a extensive process in terms of background on these guys, and from, you can watch it, you can bring up the film and watch what happened, and again, Jeremy does a phenomenal job for us, and we have some other resources that we reach out to and use, whether it's boots on the ground at the campus, in the cities, whatever it may be, so we're very comfortable with players that we turn the card over on.
Brian, at the combine, Malik said that, he talked about the meeting and he just talked about how much fun it was. You guys were joking around and doing this, I mean, take me in the room there, I mean, was it fun, was he,
Yeah, I enjoy those meetings, but I love his personality. He's a very, very competitive young man, so it was good to sit down and kind of introduce ourselves and him to introduce himself to us. He came here, he's a competitive guy, and I'm looking forward to working with him.
Joe, how, if at all, did you weigh McCarthy there versus Malik?
Yeah, Malik was our guy. He's the guy we targeted. Again, we took him. The players that were on the board, and we took Malik Nabers.
How many times did you see him play in person last year?
Last year, one time. I saw LSU play one time.
Joe,
At
can
what
you
point-
speak about?
Which game was
can
that?
you speak about Malik's toughness? I know he had the shoulder injury early in the season last year, but I don't believe he missed any games. Can you just talk about that?
Yeah, that's legit. Talking to the trainers and the medical staff, this guy doesn't miss. Like, whatever it is, he's going to play through it. He's tough. He doesn't miss games, doesn't miss practice. If he can play, he's going to play. So again, that's the way this kid's wired. You'll see it. When you guys get around and see the way he practices, the way he plays on game day, and just again, when you see his highlights and you see some of the stuff that he can do, whether it's with the ball in his hand or without the ball in his hand, it's just when guys are wired like that at his age, that's ingrained in him by then, and that's who he is. So we're looking forward to bringing some of that toughness, explosiveness to the roster.
Joe,
How did you see him develop from when you first saw him and over the course of the few times you saw him?
Yeah, I mean, he's been productive. He's had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, so he scored more touchdowns this year than he did the year before. But I also think Jaden really elevated his game this year and had a good supporting cast. So you saw a lot of the traits last year as well. And again, he's a young kid, so when you're evaluating him last year, you're evaluating a 19-year-old kid this year, a 20-year-old kid. So you see what some of these receivers are getting right now, APY, and you get a guy at his age where we got him in the draft, and you're going to have a cost control for 5 years. You're fired up about that.
Joe, what really stood out when you saw Malik in person?
I think at that position, the toughness, and the competitiveness. Some of the best ones I've been around, they have that. Because again, there's going to be 20-some receivers taken in, between today and tomorrow and Saturday. And what separates all the guys that are 6 foot, that are 200 pounds, and run 4.45, because there's a bunch of them out there. And to me, it always goes back to that grit, that toughness, the tenacity. You can't coach that. You can't teach that. And I think this kid possesses those traits.
Joe, this could have been a very different night for Daniel. What did he say to you when you called him?
I shot him a text.
You shot him?
I shot him a text, yeah.
When did you realize that this was gonna be the likely outcome? Like at what pick? And did you know at that point, or did you think that the Chargers, I know you kind of heard that a little bit, that they were gonna take an offensive tackle there?
Yeah, but you look at their roster too, and Mike Williams is gone, and Keenan Allen's gone, and they have
That's what I'm asking you.
and they have
How
Justin.
confident were you that
We
they
didn't.
were?
We didn't. Again, that was part of the contingency plan. You have 6 names, and if all 6 go, you go to bed at night, whoever 6 was, and you're happy with it. Okay, or there's other contingency plans where when teams started calling, you could move back, who's still going to be there, or you move up. So we had multiple plans. Again, this is a whirlwind, and Dave's lived it a little bit with me. Well, we could do this, and we could do that. You're over preparing for everything in all different situations, and we didn't know what the Chargers were going to do until we heard they took an offensive tackle, and we were fired up.
Other than the fact that they're both from LSU, does this guy remind you at all of a young Odell?
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna compare him to anybody. I think he's a fantastic player, got a lot of good attributes, starting with his personality, his demeanor, competitive stamina, toughness. he's a dog on the field. And excited to work with him. He's his own person. Got a lot to learn coming in. It's always having coached it starting out my career, there's a lot to learn. But I know he's willing and he's ready to jump on the opportunity.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.